What is up, my fellow viewers? This is Kaguya-Sama and welcome to another video. Did you know I have a new Discord channel? Yep, Kaguya's little corner is open for everyone that enjoys anime and wants to hang out with other people. So please go check it out. Link in the description. Today we're jumping on to the anime of the spring season of 2020, a second video on the series for this year. If you have not seen my top 3 anime video for the winter season, I'll leave the link in the description. Again, like the previous one, this video contains spoilers to the anime I've seen and only the shows I've watched. You can check out the timestamps in the video description if you don't want to be spoiled. So, let's get on to the list. So to start off, we have Kaguya-Sama Love is War, the second season. There's not much to say about Kaguya-Sama Love is War, besides the fact that the anime is freaking amazing. Kaguya-Sama is a comedy slash romantic slash school type of anime in which we have a game of tease between the two lovers that simply cannot confess their love to each other. It goes, however, way beyond the simple teases, as the anime conveys an authentic way of portraying human behavior through love with a lot of comedy in the mix. In this season, we have the introduction of a new member called Miko Ino, a first-year student at the school that becomes the auditor of the school council. She is this authoritarian girl that came to impose justice and order, having high standards for her previous works, even though she's really cute when it comes to her naivety towards her idealistic perception of love. Ishigami has also undoubtedly shown the most character development this season, where we get a more conceived background to his past and overall exploration to his character. Unlike many comedy anime, I believe this show has a very peculiar way of characterize characters with amazingly human personalities with a lot of background and sense of humor. This is true from the main protagonist to the supporting characters as well, which also are important to the story and have distinct personalities, making this story worth to watch in all senses of the word. This show has a lot of smart comedy, if I could say, because it shows a lot of creativity when conveying comedic scenes through emotions and through the cute love circle between Kaguya and Shirogane, making you almost daydreaming of having such a teasing and compromised relationship with someone you truly appreciate. This anime, despite the criticism it gets sometimes, is without a doubt one of my favorite comedy slash school anime, and I believe you should totally check it out if you have not seen the show. As for the next anime, we have Hachi-nan sore wa nai deshou, and all I can say is that this anime started up pretty good in my opinion, with a bit of background about Wendelin's family and how he'd become this amazingly talented magician, with a little bit of drama mixed in about his mentor's death. Unfortunately, right after the second episode, it became this completely generic, bland, and uninteresting story. It felt like I was watching a fantasy slash action isekai anime that all of a sudden turned into a political show, leading to a Wendelin versus older brother brothel. Yes, because this anime is supposed to happen in another world, since the main protagonist being originally a 24-year-old dude reincarnated into a 6-year-old kid from a noble yet poor family. This reincarnation got totally forgotten and wasn't mentioned ever again. What is weird to me, unlike for example Overlord, where the main protagonist has inner monologues about his situation and the viewer gets to understand how his behavior changes according to the world he lives in, this anime does not convey any of the protagonist's inner thoughts, in which it does make the story feel really underwhelming without any proper build-up. I mean, did the main protagonist completely forgot about his previous life? I mean, I remember watching him the first time he got reincarnated, and we saw him questioning about his surroundings and realizing he was in the body of a child, but after a while didn't care about finding a way to go back to his previous life. Aside from these plot issues, the characters were again really generic, and it felt like yet again another boring isekai. The family issues and the social inequalities was indeed an interesting topic to touch upon, but the inconsistent narrative with weird pacing, the interest behind the lore did fall short really quickly. I mean, the main protagonist goes to the city and starts off in a school in which it is totally forgotten 10 seconds later, and then all of a sudden is this filthy rich guy from the high nobility in which builds for his older brother to have a grudge for him and ultimately attempting to kill his younger brother. In short, poor character designs in all senses of the word, poor narrative structure with no proper build-up, and god, how everything felt rushed. Next on the list we have Gleipnir. Here we have the story about people that encounter the mysterious alien that is able to grant wishes in exchange for unique coins. People that encounter this alien were also granted the ability to turn into monsters and fight against each other in order to collect these coins. Personally, even though one of the main protagonists was really underwhelming as a character at times, I really enjoyed this anime. Why, you may ask? Well, because there was a sense of build-up and tension, most of the times combined with an interesting premise that I have not seen much lately. The monsters had great designs in my opinion, especially Shuichi's, because it had a meaning behind it in which was revealed later on. The characters were intertwined from the very beginning, and towards the end we understand how they were connected. Not only the story was solidly conceived, but the characters themselves were quite complex and unique in their own way, each of them with their own mysteries and goals. If we talk about Shuichi and Claire's bond, it was without a doubt a unique one, because it had a deep meaning that was built up, showing a great development between the main protagonists. At the beginning, Claire had only the goal of collecting the coins and use his partner to achieve her goals, but then later on, through the different anime plot points, they grew up as a duo that were ready to help each other when needed. The fact that Claire was able to control Shuichi's monster form was symbolized through the meaning of trust and almost of love, at least from Claire's perspective. Since they needed each other, fighting their lives to free themselves from their situation, it shows that the story is way deeper than what it seems. Both of these protagonists are like the yin and yang, if you can make that analogy, because Shuichi needs Claire in order to fight against these monsters, because she's the courage he needs to, and also Claire needs Shuichi to support and help her understand the reasons behind her sister's action, and also the reason as to why she became a monster as well. The way the story reveals itself is also surprisingly well conceived, due to the fact that there is an interesting twist in the end about Shuichi not being able to remember his past with his friends, and the story ends in a fashion way with room for continuation. Besides the story, the anime had an interesting and unique design that fit really well with the story, with great animation. The design of each character was pretty simple and yet unique, in which I really enjoyed, considering the fact that this anime is about characters that have personalities that seem more human than your usual supernatural anime show with real flaws. There's some fan service in the mix, only to appease the audience, especially with Claire, but what makes her character great is her confidence and strong will to overcome their struggles. And I can even say that she was the real protagonist of the show, carrying herself and Shuichi throughout the narrative. Honestly, I can't wait for a continuation of the show. Next we have Shokugeki no Soma go no Sara. I decided to include this one here even though most of it aired in the summer due to the delay because of the pandemic. It still was a spring anime, so this season was the last installment for the series, and even though I'll really miss Shokugeki, it was indeed the worst out of the 5 seasons. First of all, and I believe everyone felt the same, unless you are a hardcore fan that doesn't see any flaws in the show, the story felt really rushed and underwhelming as well. Look, I'm going to spoil the whole ending right off the bat. I have not read the manga at all, okay? And looking at Asahi for the first time back at the ending of the 4th season, I immediately told one of my friends, yo, is that Azami's son or something? Because they really resemble each other, what the f***? And yeah, I was right. Apparently Erina's father had a relationship with someone else, and yeah, it was indeed her sibling. Erina's sibling. With that out of the way, there were so many things this season didn't get right. I mean, I really enjoyed the first 3 seasons of the show because there was a sense of intrigue and we got to see how Yukihira grew as a cook with the objective of beating his father one day. His everyday life in the academy was such a good experience and journey because he had an objective in mind from the beginning, and that was to conquer the top of the academy. In this season, however, there was no tension whatsoever. The plot itself felt really rushed and was poorly conceived. Like for example, Asahi becoming a professor for the sake of plot, beating Soma's father in a cooking contest considering the dude was literally the god of cooking, and destroying the whole intrigue around Juishiro's character. Something that it was built over the course of the seasons, Yukihira and of course his father's rivalry. And now, I mean, he was beaten off screen? I mean, come on. It was seen as the peak of cooking for Yukihira and completely destroyed by his pupil. I mean, it doesn't make sense, okay? Honestly, the tournament itself was a pile of garbage from the very beginning. I believe almost everyone, me included, knew it would come down to a cooking match between Soma and Asahi, Yukihira of course beating his ass, and then somehow losing against Erina. The whole concept of Asahi and Noir bringing chainsaws, explosives and whatnot to a goddamn cooking competition made no fucking sense. It is like we were watching a food anime show with power-ups. The writing in the first seasons were, however, much more interesting and made a lot more sense than this last season in my opinion, and it removed that sense of realism. I think that adding powers to characters killed my interest for this season. It baffles me how they start up really strong and then being able to screw up in the final season, the last journey with these amazing characters. I mean, it is sad that it ended on a bad note for me, despite the fact that I will really miss this show. Up next we have Shironeko Project Zero Chronicle. I don't understand why, but I always have a knack to pick the worst shows in a season. This show is definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, the worst anime of spring season of 2020, in my opinion. On par with Gibiate though. If you have not seen my Gibiate video, link is in the description as well. I might do a top 3 worst anime of the year. I might die while making it though, but still, I think it's worth the sacrifice. But anyways, I'm going to keep it short. This anime screams the generic word from start to finish. The characters are so boring and one-dimensional. The story itself is also boring and so cliche with the whole white versus dark concept. The animation was poor, considering it was made by Project Number 9. There was not enough lore and background about the two different worlds, and all I can say is that it was a pile of shit. Everything is rushed without a proper structure and for the sake of greater good, because, well, the main protagonist gets powers and becomes the strongest in the Dark Realm or whatever. All of that in like 2 episodes or so, just to convey the lack of justice and the suffering the Dark Realm goes through. I don't know, maybe because it was an adaptation from a game. I mean, things just went downhill. Am I being too harsh? Let me know in the comments. Finally on our list we have Tsugu Tsugomomo, aka Tsugumomo's second season. What can I say about this show other than it is one of mine guilty pleasures? I mean, we're talking about a good and funny comedy slash action show with a touch of ecchi just to spice things up. But besides the ecchi scenes with amazing fighting choreography and animation, we have on our hands a very interesting story development from season 1 to season 2, with a lot more action than the first season. We are awarded with a more in-depth analysis of the relationship between humans and Tsugu Komami and the psychological aspects behind it, with a huge cliffhanger in the end that may lead to a 3rd season, hopefully. The ending fight between Kazuya and the rest of the gang versus Kanaka was indeed an amazing show, with the defeat of Kiriha and how Kazuya will have to toughen up in order to resurrect her. There's a lot of mysteries and tension that were built up towards the end, and with the cliffhanger, I'm definitely hyped for the continuation. There's some less good things to say about this anime, however, and it is also directed towards its first season as well. There is unfortunately not enough character development in my opinion. I understand that this anime is filled with action and story, but I believe the characters would deserve a bit more attention. Since the second season got a more serious tone, I was expecting a more interesting development from the main protagonists. There was still a lot of fan service in which did not bother me, so as long as we had a coherent and structured story. Overall, this season did not disappoint at all, and I'm expecting to see a lot more in the future. And with this guys, my top 3 anime for the spring season of 2020 will be Kaguya-Sama Love is War the second season of course, Gleipnir and Tsugu Tsugomomo. Thank you so much for watching today's video, I hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned for Sunday's weekly anime news as we have a lot to cover. Please take a look at my Discord channel, link is in the description, as well as the other platforms. And don't forget to watch your daily dose of anime because it's good for your brain and heart. Take care and I'll see y'all in the next video.